Club Penguin was an MMO released in 2005, which saw more than 200 million accounts be created over its 12-year lifespan. In 2017, Disney, who had purchased Club Penguin back in 2007, announced that it would be shutting down the servers forever. Knowing it would soon be shut down, speedrunners came up with the idea to see how fast they could get banned from the game, and it quickly became one of the most popular meme speedruns in history. This is the world record history of ban percent in Club Penguin. Getting banned in Club Penguin wasn't anything new. Some of the most popular memes from Club Penguin were pictures of people getting banned from the game in the most ridiculous, hilarious, or offensive ways possible. There was even an entire subreddit community dedicated to posting how they got banned. When researching the origin of the speedrun, a person by the name of Buffet Time made a post in the Club Penguin forums on speedrun.com. The idea was brought to Ratz's attention, who was a Club Penguin speedrun moderator. However, none of these runs were ever posted online and seemed to be treated only as a joke. It wasn't until a particular person had the same idea, but decided to post it on YouTube for the world to see. This person was Buttonwalls. Now, Buttonwalls wasn't a speedrunner at all. In fact, he didn't even actually play Club Penguin. Back in January of 2017, Buttonwalls recalled watching a recent Super Mario Bros. World record. This likely would have been the world record for Super Mario Bros. 3, which was completed in 3 minutes and 6 seconds on January 19th of 2017 by a speedrunner by the name of Karua. This led Buttonwalls to go down a YouTube rabbit hole of watching many other fascinating speedruns that showed up in his suggestions feed. Not too long after this, on January 30th, 2017, Disney announced that they would be shutting down all Club Penguin servers in 2 months' time, on March 29th, 2017. Buttonwalls saw this announcement and the resulting surplus of Club Penguin memes going viral, particularly the ones that were about getting banned from the game. A few weeks later, Buttonwalls had a shower thought and combined these recent events into one: speedrunning and getting banned from Club Penguin. He thought it was a hilarious idea that would make a great video. So, these are the rules that he set out for himself. Rule number 1. Play as if you just installed a new web browser. So this meant that your clipboard must be empty, no autofill from visiting the website beforehand, so this meant that he had to use incognito mode, and no pre-existing email. An email address had to be created from scratch. And the second rule was that you must make your penguin from scratch and not use an existing penguin. This meant you had to create your account, make a temporary email account, activate your penguin using your temporary email, log into Club Penguin, get banned. Once Buttonwalls had these rules in place, he made his first attempt at the speedrun. Little did he know that he was about to create one of the most famous meme speedrun categories in speedrunning history. This video would go on to generate over 7.5 million views on YouTube and become a speedrun sensation. Let's break down this run so that we can compare it to future runs. Buttonwalls would begin with an incognito Google Chrome window. He would then Google search Club Penguin and a disposable email generator website to create his email address. While switching back and forth between tabs, he would fill out his account details for Club Penguin while creating and copying his new email address. Once his penguin was created, he had to wait for the registration email to come in so that he could activate his account. The activation page required him to agree to terms and rules, as well as fill out a CAPTCHA, which would be random letters and numbers. After that was all done, it was then time to load up the game and sign in to his newly created penguin. He then sped through the required tutorial until he was finally able to use the in-game chat system. Once he was able to chat, he would attempt to make his penguin say the word F***. The game would warn him that he used an inappropriate word, and if he did it again, he would get banned. And that's exactly what he did. He was banned from Club Penguin in 1 minute and 54 seconds, the first ever recorded ban percent speedrun posted to YouTube. To summarize these runs, I'm going to display the 5 splits used in ban percent. Buttonwalls created his penguin in 21 seconds, had his email loaded up in 15 seconds, activated his penguin in 11 seconds, logged into the game in 42 seconds, and got banned in 23 seconds. If you want to see the history of these splits after the video, you'll be able to find them in the description down below. This speedrun was also posted on Reddit in r/videos, where it blew up in popularity and made front page with over 24,000 upvotes. Many people pointed out that the run was slow or could be beaten quite easily, saying things such as, "There is a lot of room for improvement here," or "Snail run," or "That was the slowest I've ever seen someone fill out a CAPTCHA and it was only 5 characters long." And they were right. There was a lot to improve in this run, but that's the case in every speedrun that's ever existed. It's up to those people to prove what they're capable of, and it only took about 6.5 hours until the record was broken. The race had begun. A person by the name of Andy was the first to step up to the challenge and successfully beat the inaugural ban percent run by Buttonwalls. Andy was able to save time in each of the 5 different splits in comparison to Buttonwalls' run. Most notably, he saved time during the creation of the penguin and had the run's first ever case of good RNG. RNG stands for Random Number Generator and is often used to refer to the randomness of a particular event. In this case, Andy had much faster RNG for his email to load in. It loaded over 7 seconds faster than Buttonwalls, giving Andy a significant time advantage. Andy continued to have better click accuracy, faster mouse movements, and utilized slightly different strategies, such as copy and pasting his username into the username field instead of typing it. Andy finished with a time of 1 minute and 35 seconds, which was 19 seconds faster than Buttonwalls. Now, there was still room for improvement. Andy didn't always have the best cursor pre-placement, which means having your cursor in the spot where you're about to click next. However, this was the only second world record for the category, so we'll cut him slack for that. It's worth noting, however, that Andy also lost time during the most critical part of the run, the part where you actually get banned. Andy misspelled the word f*** and had to backspace the word and try again. Like its predecessor, Andy's record also didn't stand for very long. It was only another 5.5 hours later before the record would be beaten again. This time, the category would get turned on its head, but not without a touch of controversy. An incredible run of 1 minute and 8 seconds by Camelogical. Apart from the email loading time, Camelogical crushed each split of the world record and completed the entire run 27 seconds faster than Andy. It took Camelogical 8 seconds to create his penguin, 10 seconds for the email to load in, just under 6 seconds for him to activate his penguin. This is the fastest the category would actually ever see, 25 seconds to log in, and finally 18 seconds to actually get banned. Camelogical had precise mouse movements and clicks. and left very little on the table as far as errors go. It was spectacularly clean. His world record would proceed to reach over 100,000 views. And with so many eyes on his new world record, it caught the attention of a couple people who noticed something strange about his run. At the beginning of Camelogical's run, you'll notice that the time on his computer is 1:25 AM. It then passes to 1:26 AM. What people found was that it went from 1:26 to 1:27 AM in 59 seconds, not 60 seconds. This was brought up to the moderators for re-verification, and upon further inspection, the results were clear. If you manually time the video from 1:26 to 1:27 AM, it takes 59 seconds. It's possible that Camelogical had either sped up or spliced his video, and he did. You can even see it in the video. When activating your penguin, there is a short GIF that would play, and it would show you the standard safe chat mode functionality. The GIF itself was just 6 pictures, and it would change exactly every half a second. When you look at Camelogical's run, the GIF seems to suspiciously play a lot faster. What he did was remove very small parts of his recording, making it look like he typed in the CAPTCHA really fast, when in reality he didn't. Remember not too long ago when I said that Camelogical had the fastest activation that this run would ever see in its history? While it was true at the time, it's no longer the case. His run of 108 had been ironically banned from the banned percent leaderboard. The record would then go back to Andy with a time of 1:35. While Camelogical's run was no longer valid, it did make it clear to other runners that mouse movements and click accuracy were extremely important. And because of that, runners raced to try snag themselves a new world record. The record would go on to be beaten 3 more times over the next 2.5 hours. A runner by the name of Nexarch had the run down to an impressive 1 minute and 14 seconds. He had a fairly solid run overall. He created his penguin in 14 seconds, had his email loaded in record time in 5 seconds, activated his penguin in 7 seconds, logged in at 22 seconds, and finally got banned in 24 seconds, which was actually the slowest split that we've seen so far. There was still quite a bit of time to be saved, and the potential to break Camelogical's banned 108 run was definitely there. It was just a matter of having good RNG, quick and accurate mouse movements, and a little bit of patience. The record of 114 by Nexarch stood for the next 4 hours. That might not seem like a lot, but this incredibly popular speedrun had many people attempting to achieve a world record for themselves. And with so many people speedrunning this category, a breakthrough was found. It was a breakthrough so large, it would go on to change the category forever. This is tutorial skip. Up until now, when players logged into the game, they would have to go through a tutorial before being able to use the chat system. Once they had access to the chat system, only then could they get banned. On average, the tutorial split would take a world record run about 21 seconds. This new skip would bypass the tutorial entirely and allow runners to decrease their final split time from 21 seconds on average to about 4. It was a 17 to 18 second time save on a speedrun that was just over a minute long. This changed everything. So how was it done? Well, it turns out that once you spawned inside a chat-enabled server, the chat box was already enabled and you could just begin typing. Even after the warning, you could still chat inside the box, thus being able to get banned from Club Penguin before you even start the tutorial. This might have been the first time that anyone has ever done that in the history of Club Penguin, but we can't really verify that. The first person to successfully utilize the tutorial skip was Morex, and he would use it to crush the record as it stood. He ended up getting the first ever sub 1 minute run at 58 seconds. Morex was on top, and it wasn't even close. He was ahead by 16 seconds on a speedrun that was now less than a minute long. What's even more remarkable is that this milestone was achieved not even 24 hours after the first speedrun had been posted by Buttonwalls. Morex had the following splits: 12 seconds to create his penguin, 13 seconds for his email to load in, 7 seconds to activate his penguin, 20 seconds to log into the game, which was a record split, and 4 seconds to get banned, which was also a record split. His email loading time had bad RNG and was quite a bit slower than other runs, but regardless, this started a new era of the speedrun. People saw this new strategy and immediately began more attempts. Morex's record wouldn't last for very long. It would be beaten just 2.5 hours later by Dojolition Man. Dojolition Man used the exact same strategies as Morex, but had slightly better RNG and smoother mouse clicks. He managed to get a solid 54-second run, officially cutting the initial record of 154 by Buttonwalls in half. The tutorial skip obviously saved a lot of time, but it wasn't the only breakthrough that occurred. Just 40 minutes after Dojolition Man's record of 54 seconds, a runner by the name of Damien SDK posted a new record that would also change the speedrun forever. A 47-second run, the first ever sub 50-second run, in which 2 new strategies were born. The first strategy happened at the very beginning of the run. Damien would have pre-made bookmarks for both the Create a Penguin webpage and the disposable email service webpage. He displayed these bookmarks on his bookmark bar, which allowed him to access these sites extremely fast, saving him the time of having to type out the website on his keyboard manually. The average time of creating a penguin using the previous strategies was about 15.5 seconds. This strategy allowed Damien to do it in 8.5 seconds. While the strategy was faster, it did become rather controversial in the community. Many community members didn't like the idea of bookmarks simply because it went against the main rule of the speedrun, which was play as if you just installed a new web browser. It was a strategy that had to be determined if it was legal or not, but the runners were doing it anyway. The other strategy that Damien formed was splitting his web browser into 2 different windows. This allowed him to click the Play Now button in one window and then hopefully be quick enough to activate his penguin in the other window before he finished logging in. On average, it took previous world records about 22 seconds to complete this split. Using the 2 window strategy, Damien did it in 12 seconds. Even though Damien's record was innovative and introduced 2 new time saves, it would last for the shortest amount of time any record would actually stand for. It stood for a grand total of 18 minutes, after which it was beaten by a runner by the name of Benjamin Liu. Benjamin not only improved on the flaws that Damien had, but also introduced 2 more time saves to the speedrun. Benjamin's first new strategy occurred during the Create a Penguin screen. When he would paste his email address, he would also paste his email address as his password. Normally runners would just randomly type in a password, but since his email address was already in his clipboard from before, it was faster just to paste that in. Benjamin's second new strategy again used the clipboard. After he successfully activated his penguin and was waiting for the game to log him in, he would type out the word F***. He would then copy it so that he could paste it in the in-game chat box later, rather than typing it out twice manually. This would get him banned in record time. The time between when the game loaded and the moment he was banned was a minuscule 2.2 seconds long, which was almost half of Norix's ban split of 4.1 seconds. Benjamin would also utilize the bookmarks at the start of his run, which continued to stir up controversy. His run would get a time of 43.2 seconds, which was 4.5 seconds faster than Damien. But just 5 hours later, a new challenger had approached. A runner by the name of Skilos went on to get the first ever sub 40 second ban percent run. How did Skilos manage to do this? Well, he didn't use any new strategies. He did, however, optimize the current strategies with incredibly fast mouse movements and clicks. Let's take a look at his splits. He created his penguin in record time of just over 6.5 seconds, had his email load in at 8.8 seconds, activated his penguin in 8.4 seconds, logged into his penguin in record time in just over 9 seconds, and was able to get banned in over 6 seconds, which was actually kind of slow. Benjamin was able to get banned in 2.2 seconds, so Skilos definitely lost a lot of time there. Despite that, he successfully pulled off the first ever sub 40 second run. Or did he? As we've discussed previously, there was a lot of controversy surrounding the use of pre-made bookmarks. Skilos had used pre-made bookmarks in his record, and when he went to submit his run to speedrun.com, it was actually rejected. It was at that exact moment when a new rule was put into place for the ban percent speedrun. You cannot use pre-made bookmarks. The community decided that they wanted to keep the spirit of the run as if you had just installed a new web browser. The past 3 runs from Skilos, Benjamin, and Damien were removed from the leaderboard. The record was no longer 39 seconds by Skilos. It went back into the hands of Dojolition Man with his time of 54.8 seconds. This was a pretty big setback, but it didn't faze Skilos. Just 5 hours after the rule change, Skilos managed to complete a 48-second run, which wasn't quite as impressive as his 39-second run. He had to backtrack to previous strategies, while including the new time saves that were still allowed. His mouse movements and clicks weren't optimal either, but it set the record for the time being. Knowing that there was still time to be saved, Skilos claimed that a sub 45-second run was theoretically possible, and as it turns out, he was correct. Just 2.5 hours later, a previous record holder posted this run, blowing all previous runs out of the water. Not only was a sub 45-second run possible like Skilos theorized, but 2K somehow managed to get a sub 40-second run at 39.5 seconds, even with the new rule changes. It was nearly the same time as Skilos' original 39.2 second run with pre-made bookmarks. People were blown away, and rightly so. Upon reviewing his splits, 2K created his penguin in record time in 11.7 seconds, had the second fastest ever email load in 7 seconds, activated his penguin in just under 8.5 seconds, logged into the game in under 9.5 seconds, and finally got banned within 2.3 seconds upon entering the game. An 8.8 second improvement on a 40-second speedrun. Talk about a complete game changer. Getting a sub 40-second run without bookmarks was a huge milestone, and not many runners achieved it, or even thought it was possible. And as silly as it sounds, this record would go on to be uncontested for nearly a full day, which was the longest any record had stood for until that point. It was truly an immaculate run, and it set the bar extremely high. Who was going to be the one to dethrone 2K? He was entirely in a league of his own. Runs at this point required precise mouse movement and clicks, good email loading time RNG, and being placed into a chat-enabled world. That last factor hasn't been mentioned quite yet, but when you log into Club Penguin, there was a chance of being placed into a non-chat server, which wouldn't allow you to use the chat system. This, of course, would be a run ender because you wouldn't be able to get banned. It was just another element of RNG included in this run. But there was one person who would go on to put on a fight, and it was someone who hadn't given up just quite yet. It was Skilos. Over 1,000 attempts later, 2K was dethroned. Skilos managed to completely skip a 38-second run and achieved a 37-second run, improving the record by about 1.5 seconds. There weren't any new strategies involved in this run per se, but Skilos did use a different disposable email service than what other runners normally used. For every single one of Skilos' attempts, he had to create a new disposable email address. He ended up creating so many that eventually these email hosts ended up IP banning him for creating too many disposable accounts. The reason runners used the same few email services was because they seemed to be the most reliable and the fastest to receive the activation email. After trying over a dozen different email services, Skilos managed to finally find one that worked pretty well for him and landed himself a new world record. A 37.9 second run was remarkable. Skilos estimated that the speedrun could be as fast as about 37.5 seconds, which was approximately 0.4 seconds faster than his current world record. Someone just needed to be patient enough to get that optimal record. And eventually, that's exactly what happened. .2K would retaliate against Skilos and snag his third world record for the category, beating Skilos by a mere 0.8 seconds. 2K had the speedrun down to an absolute science. He figured out a way to reliably receive the activation emails nearly instantly. It turns out it might not have been RNG all along. As he was doing attempts, he noticed a pattern with the disposable email service that he was using, which was tempmail.org. He found that his emails were coming in at around the same time every minute. Every time, it seemed to arrive within 14 to 15 seconds of a new minute passing. He took screenshots of his previous attempts, and his activation emails came in at 8:48:14 and 8:49:14.
His world record had the activation email come in at 8:51:15. 2K was able to time his speedrun perfectly so that as soon as he created his penguin, temp mail would send the queued up batch of emails. He would receive his activation email in record time in just 4.4 seconds, which was 2.4 seconds faster than Skilos. As far as his splits go, 2K created his penguin in 12 seconds, had his email loaded in 4.4 seconds, activated his penguin in 8.3 seconds, logged in within 10.1 seconds, and was banned in record time at just 2.2 seconds. 2K had thought his run was 37.3 seconds long, but after doing an actual frame count of his run, it was actually 37.1 seconds. A run considered to be unbeatable. And unbeatable it was. Every record that we've analyzed so far, right from the initial world record from Button Walls, had occurred within just 58 hours, or about 2 days and 10 hours. At this point in time, it was February 22nd in 2017, and the Club Penguin servers weren't going to be shut down for over a month. However, the speedrun had become hyper-optimized in such a short amount of time that it was incredibly hard to beat 2K's record of 37.1 seconds. Not only was it the first record to stand more for than 24 hours, but then it stood for over a month, and no one had broken his record. And as it turns out, it may have actually been next to impossible to beat 2K's record, not because it was such an optimized run, but because of what Club Penguin did to their activation emails. Normally, when you created your penguin and received your activation email, you could simply click on the Activate Penguin button, which would redirect you to an activation form that you would have to fill out. This no longer worked. Clicking on the Activate Penguin button had issues redirecting you to Club Penguin. Runners scrambled to figure out what was going on, trying different disposable email services to see if it was an issue with a specific email service. It wasn't. It was happening to all email services. The only way you can now activate your penguin was to click on the Activate Your Account with the Code hyperlink located at the bottom of the email. It would also provide you with a code that you can enter in. This was far slower than clicking the Activate Penguin button. Runners questioned if it was intentional or not from Club Penguin. Perhaps Club Penguin didn't want players creating new penguins anymore, or perhaps speedrunners were creating a noticeable amount of traffic on Club Penguin's email servers, or both. But to this day, we don't really know what happened. Skilos himself claimed that he had done 3,000 to 4,000 attempts alone. Imagine how many cumulative attempts between all the top runners would have been at that point. It's hard to know for sure, but it would have been a rather decent amount. The banned percent speedrun was considered dead. It seemed impossible to complete a run faster than 37.1 seconds with the methods and strategies available due to the activation emails no longer working. Another thing that prevented a lot of runs was that Club Penguin was banning many of the domain names used by popular disposable email services. It was difficult to find one of those services without it being blocked by Club Penguin. March 28th was approaching, which was one day before the official server shutdown. People were already congratulating 2K for what looked like was going to be the forever cemented and unbeatable world record of 37 seconds. But then, the unthinkable happened. Just mere hours before the server shutdown, Camelogical posted a new world record of 33.8 seconds, 3.5 seconds faster than the previous world record. This record was on a completely different level than anything anyone had previously achieved. The past 3 world records were all within 2.5 seconds of each other, yet somehow Camelogical managed to beat it by 3.5 seconds. Let's take a look at the splits. Camelogical would create his penguin in record time of 9.6 seconds. His email loaded in at 6.6 seconds. He was able to activate his penguin in 7.6 seconds, log in at record time in just under 8.5 seconds, and was able to get himself banned in record time in just under 1.5 seconds. The biggest question was, how was Camelogical able to do this run? It seemed like it was impossible to do any runs because of all the issues that were happening in the past month. But as it turns out, things just seemed to work in the last day or two before the server shutdown. With little time they had left, runners tried their last few attempts if they could, despite all the issues happening. Unfortunately, time ran out and the servers were officially shut down. It was now impossible to speedrun ban percent in Club Penguin.
No luck. Oh, here's a run. Oh, they shut down. That's it. Game over. They have shut down.
Camelogical's time of 33.8 was unprecedented. It was so outlandishly fast, it was suspect to a lot of runners. And if you remember from before, Camelogical's previous world record of 108 was banned since it was found to be fraudulent. Suspicions arose quickly and accusations were made. The following day, a lengthy, detailed Reddit thread was posted in r/speedrun. It was an analysis on Camelogical's run, and why the person who made the thread considered the run to be illegitimate. The person who posted this thread was Skilos. The Reddit post quickly gained popularity and became a hotly debated topic. Skilos pointed out 2 main things he believed that made the run illegitimate. The first one was the black box. During Camelogical's run, at 10.9 seconds, a black box was edited inside of the video. It was edited in to cover up his Skype and Discord windows. It even says in the video, "LOL, you're not getting my Skype or Discord." However, the black box also covered up part of his taskbar, including the system clock. Before the black box was edited in, the time of the system clock was 3:39 p.m. Suspiciously, when the black box was removed from the video, the system clock was 3:40 p.m. Skilos stated that it was very possible that the minute had just passed, while the black box was up for just under half a second. He noted that the important thing to take away from this is that the system time changed from 3:39 to 3:40 p.m. between 10.9 and 11.4 seconds into his run. Let's put a pin in that for now and we'll come back to it here shortly. Skilos' second main detail was to do with the activation email. Camelogical received the activation email at 16 seconds into the run. We know that his system time changed to exactly 3:40 p.m. between 10.9 and 11.4 seconds into his run. So, if we subtract the time from when he received the email and the time when his system changed to 3:40 p.m., he would have received the email 4.9 to 5.4 seconds after his system changed to 3:40 p.m. This meant Camelogical should have received the email between 3:40:04 p.m. and 3:40:05 p.m. But if you look closely at the timestamp of his email, the email arrives at 3:40:12 p.m. Where did those few extra seconds go? Skilos claims that the video was edited. Splicing is a common technique used by cheaters. It's when you cut and paste different videos together to make it seem like it was all done in one video, or in this case, removing one or more different parts of one video to make it seem like it was done faster than it actually was.
This was the same cheating technique that Camelogical used in his banned run of 108. Skilos believed that the splice was done at approximately 15.5 seconds into the run. His reason was that it was the ideal time to not move your mouse, because nothing else would be moving in the background. Skilos believed that Camelogical actually waited 4 to 5 seconds for the email, but that was cut out to make it seem like the email loaded in faster than it actually did. Skilos went into more detail about how he thought the timestamp worked inside the email. He provided examples of the timestamps working correctly on his computer. The times were spot on. Skilos also tried changing the time zone on his computer to see if the email timestamp would reflect the changes, and it did. They were also spot on. Skilos then went on to talk about how he believed the timestamp was calculated in the backend through JavaScript, which is a programming language that's used inside web pages. Shortly after Skilos' post was made, Camelogical's run of 33.8 seconds was removed from the Speedrun.com leaderboard yet again. The world record went back into the hands of 2K with a time of 37.1 seconds, and the community was left bamboozled. As the day went on, more and more people were commenting on the Reddit post that Skilos had made. Some interesting things were brought up, including criticisms of Skilos' reasoning. When Skilos talked about the timestamp inside of the email, his logic was flawed. He had thought that the timestamp inside the email was pulled from the system clock on the computer. However, it was brought to his attention that this wasn't the case. The time was generated from the server of the disposable email service, not the computer. That opened up the possibility that Camelogical's system clock may have simply just been out of sync with the email server. As a result of this new information, Skilos edited his post admitting that the logic he had used was unknowingly flawed, and to look at the comment thread for the correct analysis. Runners continued to debate the legitimacy of Camelogical's run, even if the timestamp explanation wasn't correct. People still believed that a black box edited inside of a video was unacceptable either way, and should disqualify Camelogical regardless. One person by the name of GrixM commented saying, "If you're going for a world record in a speedrun, even a meme one, you should at the very least do preparations beforehand so that there is no personal info popping up either way. I would not accept a video that hides anything at all." More comments were made to see if someone could try to analyze the sound from the video for signs of splicing. A technique that can be used to detect splicing is to analyze the audio from a video. It may be possible to detect a pop or a jump in the hum of a video. A user by the name of Omnipotent Entity said that they tried to analyze the audio but wasn't able to detect anything. However, they said it may be possible that the audio was replaced entirely because of the overlaid music that Camelogical used. The only way this debate might be settled was if Camelogical provided the raw footage without any sort of editing at all. Later that day, he did remove the black box from the footage. Let's take a look. Camelogical provided his raw footage. However, there was still some editing inside the video. While he did remove the original black box, which had been covering the system time, there was a brief moment where a white box was displayed instead. The white box didn't cover up the system time, but it did still cover up part of his Skype, Discord, and Steam windows, which, to this day, only Camelogical knows what was underneath that. Camelogical posted his proof several times in the Reddit thread, but nothing was done about it. From here on out, the once immensely popular ban percent category quickly faded in popularity. Once the servers were shut down, speedrunners moved on to the next best thing. It was impossible to even attempt speedruns, so why even bother? There wasn't anything else to look forward to. The category was officially closed, and Camelogical's time of 33.8 seconds was not reinstated on the leaderboard. We are now over 6 years later. Camelogical's run of 33.8 on his YouTube channel still claims to be the world record. The official leaderboard on Speedrun.com still claims 2K's time of 37.1 seconds to be the official world record. And as far as we know, there hasn't been any sort of official investigation into Camelogical's run. And after 6 years of history behind us, it makes it even harder to verify things. It would be unreasonable to ask Camelogical for the true raw footage of his run. No editing, no boxes, nothing. It's been 6 years. A lot can change in 6 years. A new computer could have been purchased, or data could have been cleaned up to save some space. Most obviously, the original Club Penguin no longer exists, so it's impossible to test activation emails again. Even if it could be tested, the disposable email service that Camelogical used, dropmail.me, could have been updated several times over the past 6 years. And over those 6 years, several other variables get in our way. Updates to Windows 10, updates to Google Chrome, new hardware that Camelogical may or may not be using today. You get the idea. It would be impossible to replicate all of the variables exactly as they were 6 years ago. Maybe something as simple as a Windows update could have caused timesync issues on his computer, but we'll never be able to test that again. The best chance we had to verify in testings was 6 years ago, but the moderators never did this, as far as we know. While we can't replicate Camelogical's exact environment from 6 years ago, we can still speculate on a couple things that are still around today. We can look into Camelogical's reasoning of why he originally put in the black box. Skilos had commented on his video about the black box and the missing 4 to 5 seconds. Camelogical's response was, "I see what you mean, and I put in the black box in order to cover Skype and Discord. You can see them in the taskbar. My only guess on the time is that the website system clock differs from my own or something. Not too sure." Let's go back to Camelogical's previous personal best. Camelogical had a respectable time of 38.9 seconds, which was 3rd place at the time, behind Skilos and 2K. This video has a couple interesting things about it. First is that there are no boxes covering up any of his other windows. He has Discord and Steam showing, albeit he doesn't have Skype open. So why didn't he cover any of those windows in this case? Well, maybe his Skype window from his 33.8 second run had identifiable information, but we don't really know for sure. The second interesting thing about his video is that he begins by showing comments of other people claiming that he sped up his previous personal bests. Camelogical would then have a webcam pointed at his hand and mouse showing everyone that he's doing it in real time. He then fades out the clip before the activation email comes in. The video fades to black, and then his actual run begins. His actual run wasn't the same one he used in the example just moments before. He also removed the feed from his webcam, which can be left up to your interpretation of why he may have done that. And that's where things stand today. While it's impossible to play the original Club Penguin, the Club Penguin speedrun community is still active today using private servers. Surprisingly, one of the categories, Thin Ice, has been optimized to the point where it's actually perfected. There's a 19-way tie for first place. They also have a new ban percent category, but it hasn't had a resurgence since the original category. They do have a Club Penguin speedrunning Discord server, so if you want to check that out, the link is in the description below. In the world of speedrunning, there are a handful of world records that are simply just impossible to beat. They'll never be broken. It might be because the game is fundamentally incapable of allowing you to go faster. Or it might be because the game is so optimized, there's just no time left to save, at least for the time being. To this day, 2K's time of 37.1 seconds is no different. It remains the official world record, and as far as we can tell, that world record will last indefinitely simply because it is impossible to play the original Club Penguin again. But until next time, thank you for watching.